I'm Annette Rose. Hi, I'm Annette Rose. Welcome to Annette Rose TV. We're here for episode 4 of the Taking Charge of Your Financial Future series, which is specifically aimed at women. As I've said before, men, it's okay if you need some education, all good, but we are here specifically for the ladies, so bear with us. Alrighty, so I suppose the first thing is I hope you're keeping up with the series and that you are actually heading back to the website to download the workbooks. We've actually covered 3 other pretty major topics already, so if you haven't got your workbooks yet, if you haven't watched the episodes, please do so. My website is rosebeauty.com.au, and if you jump onto the tools page, you'll be able to find all of the workbooks from the previous sessions. Okay, let's get on with today. So today we are here to talk about insurance. This one's a bit of a tough one. On my blog about this, I have actually written that I wish I could make this more exciting. The only hope I have for you is the light at the end of the tunnel, that maybe getting in charge of your finances and actually feeling like you are really well prepared and things are getting more secure is actually going to be a little bit more exciting than the topic of personal insurance. So anyway, let's crack on. So insurance is a really tough one, and it's tough because first of all, you have to acknowledge that there are going to be bad things that happen in life, and some of the things that we talk about, you can see here I've got a little definition which I'll read through for you in a second, but that insurance is there to help you in times when things go wrong that you really wish had not happened, and that usually are unexpected. So I think that makes it a really difficult topic of conversation. The other thing is that I have found from my own personal experience that insurance is not easy to understand. It's also not easy to get, and once you have it, it's actually not very easy to be sure that you've got the right products, that it's actually going to work for you in a time when something bad happens. I'm sure we've all had that experience where you've purchased some travel insurance. You really thought you were covered for whatever happened, but for the life of you, you couldn't get the travel insurance company to pay you any money for the insurance that you had paid for. Maybe you're not like me, maybe you haven't had that experience, but it can be really frustrating. So personal insurance is actually quite a complex area of insurance, and I will talk to you a little bit about that as we go through and how it may be worthwhile you seeking some help from an independent financial advisor who might be able to guide you for either a zero or very low fee through this minefield. But what we're hoping to achieve today is that you get a basic understanding of the different types of personal insurance, that you're clear on what those are, and if you go ahead and download the workbook, you'll have a really strong reminder there, and I've got some actions for you to actually go through to determine what you think you might need and to actually create an action plan for you and your family, assuming that you have one. Alright, so let's talk about what insurance is. So I did a little bit of Google work, and the definition that comes up for insurance is an arrangement by which a company or the state undertakes to provide a guarantee of compensation for specified loss, damage, illness or death in return for payment of a specified premium. Okay, so that's a little definition that I've got up here. Now, we cover all the bad things there pretty much, right? So there could be a loss, there could be damage. We're not talking about those types of insurance today. We're talking more about the types of insurance that are about personal insurance. So this is where we have illness, death, and the other thing that can be covered in there are things around redundancy, when you lose your job and that wasn't a planned thing to happen, and also disability, which is another thing that can actually happen in the course of life and really seriously affect your financial future. Alright, so that's the definition. It's not all that cheery, gotta be honest. Now, if you're single, you don't have any kids, you don't really have any debt to speak of, this video probably feel free to continue watching. It's good to be educated, it's good to know what might be coming in the future, but it's probably not such a big deal for you right here, right now, okay? The type of people that it is really important for are people who are probably married, people who have children or other dependents, and again, particularly if you have debt. So let's say you're a family, husband, wife, whatever your scenario might be. You have a couple of kids kicking around, you have a mortgage on your house, maybe you have a couple of personal loans. This is really the time of life when personal insurance gets really important for you. All right, so I'm in that situation. I'm in a family. I have a partner, so I have my husband. We have 3 kids, 17, 14 and 11. We have a mortgage on our house, and yeah, we have a little bit of personal debt. So for me, I actually think that some of these types of personal insurance are not negotiable, and the key reason is because if something bad happens, we have to try and work out how the people that are able to cope, the people that are left behind when it comes to the more serious things, how do they actually deal with things financially? And that's what the insurance piece is all about. All right, so today we're going to cover 4 key types of personal insurance. We're going to talk about life insurance, we're going to talk about income protection insurance, we're going to talk about total and permanent disability insurance, and we're going to talk about critical illness insurance. Okay, so 4 very, very important types of insurance for you to understand what they are, to make a determination about whether you need them, and if you need them, how you're actually going to go about taking positive steps to get those insurances in place so that your family and loved ones are protected. So life insurance is basically essential if there is more than you to consider. I think we've already talked a bit about that. In essence, this is a lump sum of money that gets paid out on the death of you or your partner. Now, regardless of who is the primary income earner, you should both be insured when it comes to having a family, having children, having debts that would need to be paid off, okay? So even if you're not the primary income earner, if you passed away, there's a strong likelihood that you are the primary caregiver, that you look after the kids, that you take them to school, that you do all the things that the kids need doing and that the family and household need doing. So it's really important that if you are no longer here, that there is a way for your partner and your family to be able to cope financially without having to worry about going to work, without having to worry about who's going to take care of the children for that period of time when you're no longer here. I know it's a bit gruesome and I'm really sorry, but we do need to talk about it. Okay, so this is a lump sum, as I said, and so what will happen when you actually go to look at seeing which providers might be able to give you some life insurance, they're actually going to take you through a series of questions. Life insurance is probably the easiest, and that's why I've dealt with it first. But they'll take you through a series of very logical questions like, what does your family look like? How many children do you have? How old are your children? How much money do you and your partner earn together in the household? What are your debts? And what do they kind of roughly comprise of? And how much are those debts? And at the end of that process, there will be let's call it a decision, an understanding of what type of a lump sum you might actually need to cover you in the event that one of you dies. And heaven forbid, if both of you actually passed away, you would then be left with that assurance that the family is actually going to be taken care of when you're no longer here. All right, so that's all about life insurance. Blimey, that felt like a lot of information. I hope that you are still with me. Okay, so second one is income protection. Now, basically this type of insurance actually will protect a major income earner when they can't work for a long time due to illness or an accident. The idea with this insurance is that you will eventually recover. There is a good prognosis, just something has happened that's taken you out of being able to earn an income for a little while. These insurance companies and policies will actually cover you so that you get paid a regular income to replace the salary that you would no longer be receiving from your company. And they can be quite complex to actually get the finer details of these insurance policies right. There's all sorts of things that need to be taken into consideration, like how much do you earn, how often do you get paid, what are the expenses in the household, and they do like you to have medical tests and to actually do a really thorough review of your medical history as well. So it's definitely a very good idea to consider this for the primary income earner. And it's probably also a very good idea to get somebody who is an authority on this subject, and I'll talk a bit more about this in a minute, to actually help you with the configuration of that insurance. All right, so that's income protection. So total and permanent disability, you might be sitting here thinking, well, what are the chances that something that bad could actually happen? And I guess the reality is that if you work in an office, if you are in a relatively safe administrative environment, the chances of you actually needing this insurance probably are less likely. However, if you are a tradie, if you are working in a more dangerous industry physically, it may be worth you considering. And again, if your partner is the primary income earner and they are in that type of an industry where it is actually perfectly feasible that they could get injured, it is worth considering this. Now, this type of insurance is actually about saying that you have been injured, and you've been injured to such an extent that you can no longer do the work that you trained for and that has been your main profession. So there is a range of different criteria that the insurance companies will actually use to assess whether they're happy to cover you for this insurance. They'll be looking at pre-existing conditions, and they'll also be looking just to really validate under what conditions they would pay out. Again, slightly more complex set of insurances to get right, to make sure that you are paying for the right level of cover, and that in the event that you do need to use it, that policy is actually going to pay out and protect you in the way that you had anticipated when you took it out. Alrighty, so the final piece of the puzzle then is critical illness. Now, I wish I could say that I didn't know anybody that's been affected by critical illness. And when I talk about critical illness, I talk about things like cancer. We're talking about those really, really horrible, debilitating diseases that potentially are life-threatening. And one of the things that is really, really great to know about this insurance is that there are some policies that will actually cover your children as well. So what that means is that if any of your children are actually diagnosed with one of these critical illnesses, that insurance policy will actually pay out, so that in a time of what will be horrific emotional distress, you can actually be there for your family, you can be there for your children, and you don't have to be worrying about where the money is coming from. So that is a really important insurance. And you know, if you have kids, I would really encourage you to consider, both for yourself, your partner, primary income earner, and your kids, that you have a really good look at this insurance. Okay, so I guess that brings us around to, how do I actually decide if I need any of these insurances? We talked a little bit at the beginning about if you have people that rely on you, if you are somebody who has some debt, and then if you put all of those things together, I would strongly suggest that you do need to be considering insurance, but it really is a question that only you and your partner, if that's relevant to you, can actually answer. What I can tell you is that bills don't stop just because you might be experiencing a problem and your income is no longer coming in. You will find that companies will be understanding, they will try and help you, but that can only get you so far. Not to mention the fact that you don't want to be experiencing financial stress when you're probably experiencing some of the worst things that could possibly happen to you. And in the event of your death, I guess the question is really trying to be grown up about it and think about, well, how would you cope if your partner died? How would your partner cope if you died? How would your kids cope if both of you? And yes, this is really extreme scenarios, but it's worth talking about. It's worth thinking about whether you can afford to be covered for those situations. All right, so that probably brings us around to the killer question of, how much does it all cost? And I really wish that this was something that I could sit here and say, well, this is going to cost you this much and this is going to cost you that much. That's actually not the reality, because as we've talked about, insurance is actually a deeply personal thing. It's not just personal to your own view of risk, but it's personal to how much you can afford. It's personal to your own circumstances. So there are an awful lot of things. So I'm just going to read them out from a list, right? When you're thinking about these insurances, it's things like, how many kids do you have? How much debt do you have? How old are you? What is your medical history? And there's so many other things that these insurance companies will take into account. What I can tell you is that there are some really fantastic online tools now. This video is being recorded in Australia, so it's Australian specific information that we're talking about here. And one website that I have found really, really useful is the website which is iSelect. So that's just www.iselect.com.au. And in particular, earlier today, I actually ran through the life insurance calculator and it was excellent. It was super easy, broke it all down for me, and I could tell that from going through that life insurance calculator that they probably do allow you to look at and compare some of these other types of insurance. So that's definitely a really good place to start. I actually think you could probably go ahead and get your life insurance in place without going too much further and without seeking too much more advice. That said, these other types of insurance, so just a reminder, life insurance is to cover you or your partner in the event that one of you dies or both of you die. Your income protection is designed to cover you for a period of time when you can't work, whether it's illness or redundancy, but you will go back to work eventually. Total and permanent disability is when something happens to you in a work context and you can no longer do the job that you were trained to do. And critical illness is when those horrendous diseases like cancer strike you or your family, and you need to have some financial assurance that you can not be worried about going to work every day while you're trying to recover, your partner's trying to recover, or indeed your kids are trying to recover. Let's hope that that never happens to anybody who watches these videos. Yeah, I guess my point is that those are quite complex. It is worth looking into having a conversation with a financial advisor that doesn't charge you for the first appointment. I personally know a couple of those, so you can actually head back to my website, click on Get in Touch, and I'll be really happy to put you in touch with a couple of people that will absolutely be happy to talk to you, certainly for the first appointment for free. And then a lot of the financial advisors are actually compensated by the companies that they're selling insurance for. So just a final note of caution there. It's a great idea to go with an independent financial advisor. What that means is that they are not tied to selling the products of one particular company. What that means is they can actually search the market and get you the best deal from a variety of different companies. It means that you're not going to pay more for an insurance because they are working with one company only. So it's an independent financial advisor that you would be looking for. All right, so let's talk about action steps then. I think if this is your fourth video, you should know them by now. So you're going to head over to rosebeauty.com.au. You might want to get in touch if you want some more information about financial advisors. You definitely need to be downloading the workbooks and actually getting on with taking some action. In this week's workbook, you'll actually have the opportunity to assess which insurances you might want to consider getting for you and your family, and I'll give you some more information about some places that you can look to get more information. And then finally, we talked about financial advisors, so that was the last piece of advice on my list. All right, so that's it for today. That's it for personal insurance. Hopefully I'm going to see you on the next video. Hopefully we're not going to see my dog who is whining at the door again. And our next episode is episode 5, where we're going to be actually bringing a lot of the things that we've talked about together, and we're going to be talking about budgeting and saving. So a lot of the things that we've been talking about need money, and I think that there are a lot of people kind of saying, certainly in my daily life when I talk to people, how can I actually afford those things? I'm already stretched. We already have a mortgage. We already have the kids. We're trying to get ahead as best we can. So budgeting and saving is going to be a really good topic, and I really look forward to seeing you. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to share my website, the blogs, and the videos with anybody else that you think might benefit from these. That's it for today. See you next time on Annette-Youtube.